Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Wanderer's Hope, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 months, exploring the outer edges of known space. Earth's first deep space mission was going better than anyone had hoped. They had found new planets, strange minerals, and signs that life existed far beyond their home world. "Captain," called Dr. Park Nari from her science station, "I'm reading something unusual ahead. Multiple ships, but they're not from Earth." Lee Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment every human had wondered about for centuries. First contact with alien life. He straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. "How many ships?" he asked. 12, Park Nari replied, her voice tight with excitement and worry. "They're big, Captain. Much bigger than ours." The alien ships appeared on the screen moments later. They were massive, dark vessels that looked like they could swallow the Wanderer's Hope without noticing. Strange lights pulsed along their hulls, in patterns that hurt to look at. Lee Do-hyun had seen Earth's most powerful warships, but these made them look like toys. "They're sending a message," reported Communications Officer Yoon Haeun. It's in our language somehow." "Put it through," Lee Do-hyun ordered. The screen filled with the image of a creature that made several crew members step backward. It looked like a giant lizard that had learned to walk upright. Its scales were dark green, almost black, and its yellow eyes held no warmth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am Admiral Kesathan of the Vorthak Empire, speaking for the Galactic Hegemony. You will identify yourselves immediately." Lee Do-hyun took a deep breath. Everything he said now would shape humanity's future among the stars. "I am Captain Lee Do-hyun of the Earth vessel Wanderer's Hope. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other civilizations." The alien admiral made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was harsh and mocking. "Earth? We have no record of this world in our databases. You must be from one of the primitive outer systems. How amusing that you have achieved basic space travel." Other alien faces appeared on smaller screens around the main image. Lee Do-hyun saw creatures with too many eyes, beings made of what looked like living crystal, and things that seemed to shift and change shape as he watched. All of them were looking at the humans with the same expression, the way adults might look at children playing with toys. "Primitive?" Lee Do-hyun tried to keep his voice steady. "We may be new to deep space, but we've achieved faster than light travel and—" "Silence," Admiral Keston interrupted. "You will listen. The Galactic Hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 of your Earth years. We are the highest form of life, the most advanced civilizations. All lesser species serve us, as is proper." Dr. Park Nari moved closer to Lee Do-hyun and whispered, "Captain, their technology readings are off our charts. These ships could destroy us without effort." The alien admiral continued speaking. "You humans show promise. Your ships are crude but functional. Your species appears capable of basic reasoning. Therefore, the hegemony offers you a great honor, immediate vassalage under our protection." "Vassalage?" Lee Do-hyun asked. "You will serve the hegemony. Your people will work in our mining operations, construct our buildings, and maintain our machines. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy and guide your development. It is more than most primitive species receive." Lee Do-hyun felt anger rise in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. "And if we refuse?" The alien's eyes narrowed, and several of the other creatures made sounds that might have been amusement. "Refuse?" Admiral Kesathan's voice carried disbelief. "No species refuses the hegemony. It would be unwise. We have weapons that can crack planets. We have armies that have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have technology beyond your understanding." "But what if we did refuse?" Lee Do-hyun pressed. The silence that followed was long and cold. When Admiral Kesathan spoke again, his voice was softer but somehow more frightening. "Then you would receive an educational demonstration of our power. Your mining stations would be destroyed. Your colonies would burn. Your people would learn that resistance brings only suffering. But this will not happen, because you are clearly intelligent enough to accept our generous offer." Lee Do-hyun looked around his bridge. He saw fear in his crew's faces. but also something else. The same stubborn determination that had driven humans to climb the highest mountains, cross the deepest oceans, and reach for the stars. Dr. Park Nari gave him a small nod. Communications Officer Yoon Hyun straightened in her chair. They were scared, but they were not broken. I need to consult with my people, Lee Do-yun said finally. This is not a decision I can make alone. Very well, Admiral Keston replied. You have one solar cycle, what you call a day, to contact your leaders and accept our terms. We will wait here for your answer. The alien screens went dark, leaving the human crew alone with their thoughts and fears. Dr. Park Nari was the first to speak. Captain, we need to send a message to Earth immediately. Admiral Kim Ji-won needs to know what's happening out here. Already working on it, Yoon Hae-un said, her fingers flying over her controls. But it will take hours for the message to reach Earth, and hours more for a reply. Lee Do-hyun sat in his captain's chair and stared at the alien ships on the screen. They hung in space like dark promises of destruction, waiting patiently for humanity to surrender its freedom. Sir, Dr. Park Nari said quietly, what are we going to tell them? Lee Do-hyun thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had never seen the stars up close but who dreamed of touching them someday. He thought about the children who would grow up either free or as slaves to alien masters. He thought about the human spirit that had never accepted impossible as a final answer. We're going to tell them the truth, he said, that humanity bows to no one. The alien ships continued their silent wait, confident in their power and certain of humanity's surrender. They had made this offer to hundreds of species over the millennia. Not one had ever refused, but they had never met humans before. They had never encountered a species that viewed overwhelming odds not as a reason to surrender, but as a challenge to overcome. The galactic hegemony was about to learn why the oldest rule in the galaxy warned against underestimating any species. The countdown to humanity's answer had begun. The message from Earth came 18 hours later, crackling through space with the determination that had carried humanity from caves to starships. Admiral Kim Ji-won's face appeared on the screen of the Wanderer's Hope, her expression hard as steel. Captain Lee Do-yun, you have Earth's full support. Humanity will not bow to these aliens no matter the cost. We've contacted all our colonies and mining stations. Everyone knows what's coming. Lee Do-yun felt relief wash over him. He had been afraid that Earth's leaders might choose safety over freedom, but he should have known better. Humans had never been good at accepting defeat. What are your orders, Admiral? He asked. Return to Earth immediately. If these aliens want to fight, they'll get one. But we need every ship and every person ready for what's coming. The transmission ended, leaving Lee Do-yun to face Admiral Kesathan with humanity's answer. The alien appeared on screen exactly 24 hours after their first meeting, his yellow eyes gleaming with confidence. Well, Captain, have your leaders accepted our generous offer? Lee Do-hyun stood straight, his voice clear and strong. The people of Earth thank you for your offer, but we must decline. Humanity will remain free. The silence that followed was absolute. For several seconds, Admiral Kesathan simply stared, as if he had heard words in a language he didn't understand. You refuse? The alien's voice carried genuine confusion. This is impossible. No species refuses the hegemony. Humanity does. Lee Do-yun replied simply. Admiral Kesathan's confusion quickly turned to anger. His scales darkened and his voice became a growl. Then you have chosen education through pain. Your species will learn obedience. The alien ships moved with terrifying grace, disappearing into faster-than-light travel before the humans could react. The Wanderer's Hope was alone again, but not for long. Lee Do-yun ordered maximum speed back to human space, racing to warn the colonies that might be the aliens' first targets. He was too late. The attack on mining station Kepler-7 came without warning. The small facility, home to 300 miners, and their families, had no weapons and no way to defend itself. When the hegemony enforcement fleet arrived, Station Commander Song Woo-jin tried desperately to negotiate. "We're just miners," he broadcast to the alien ships. "We have no weapons, no military value. There are children here." The response was a beam of energy that cut through the station's main power core like it was made of paper. But instead of destroying the station completely, the aliens waited. They wanted the humans to suffer first, to understand their helplessness. That was their first mistake. Colonel Choi Minho had been visiting the mining station to inspect their security systems. A veteran of Earth's Special Forces, he took one look at the situation and began organizing the impossible, a defense using mining equipment and civilian volunteers. "Those energy beams have to cool down between shots," he told the frightened miners. "That gives us maybe 30 seconds each time. We use the mining ships as shields and the industrial lasers as weapons." "Those are mining lasers," protested Engineer Yoon Hyun, who had been upgrading the station's equipment. "They're designed to cut rock, not fight spaceships." "Rock, metal, alien hull plating," Choi Minho said grimly. "Cut is cut." What followed was the strangest battle in galactic history. Mining ships, never designed for combat, darted between the massive alien vessels like angry insects. Industrial equipment meant for excavation became improvised weapons. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any logical pattern. The humans should have been dead in minutes. Their ships were slower, their weapons weaker, their armor non-existent. But they kept coming, using tactics no military academy had ever taught because no sane commander would ever try them. Engineer Yoon Hyun linked 3 mining ships together with magnetic cables, creating a weapon system that could attack from multiple angles at once. Miners who had never fired a shot in anger used their knowledge of asteroid fields to hide among the space debris, striking from impossible positions. When the dust settled, the alien enforcement fleet had won. The mining station was destroyed, and most of the human ships were wreckage, but they had paid a price no one expected. 2 alien cruisers were badly damaged, and 1 smaller ship had been completely destroyed by a mining laser that somehow punched through shields that should have been impenetrable. Admiral Kessethan reviewed the battle reports with growing confusion. How had primitive humans damaged ships with 1,000-year-old shield technology? How had civilian miners lasted more than 5 minutes against trained warriors? "Their tactics make no sense," reported his tactical officer. "They attacked from 17 different angles simultaneously. They used their own ships as weapons, ramming our vessels at critical moments. Their strategy appears to be chaos." But the attack had the desired effect. When news of the mining station's destruction reached other human colonies, panic spread. Surely now Earth would see reason and surrender. Instead, the colonies began to prepare for war. Captain Bae Tai-hyung commanded the research station orbiting the gas giant New Horizon. When the alien ultimatum came demanding immediate surrender, his response was to begin modifying every ship in the system for combat. "We don't have weapons," his chief engineer protested. "We have fusion reactors, magnetic launch systems, and 1,000 tons of metal ore," Bae Tai-hyung replied. "We have weapons. We just need to put them together." Across human space, the same scene played out. Scientists became weapons designers, cargo ships became warships, civilians became soldiers. The humans had no military tradition to tell them what was impossible, so they tried everything. Dr. Lim Swa, a physicist on Research Station Omega, looked at the readings from the destroyed alien ship and made a discovery that would change everything. "Their shields work by deflecting energy in a specific pattern," she explained to the Emergency Council of Earth's leaders. "But the pattern has gaps, tiny ones, but they're there. If we can hit those exact points, can we build weapons accurate enough?" asked Admiral Kim Ji-won. "Give me 2 weeks," Dr. Lim Sua replied. She had 1 week before the next alien attack came. It would have to be enough. The hegemony fleet that arrived at the Mercury mining complex was larger than the first one. Admiral Kessethan wanted no mistakes this time. The humans would be crushed quickly and completely, but the humans who met them were not the same species that had been surprised at Kepler 7. These humans had learned from that battle. They had adapted. The mining complex's defense coordinator, General Kang Sung-hyun, had studied every second of the previous fight. He had noticed something the aliens hadn't. Their ships always attacked in the same formations, always followed the same patterns. They fight like they're following a rulebook, he told his makeshift fleet commanders. So we'll do everything the rulebook says not to do. The battle that followed broke every rule of space combat. Human ships that should have formed defensive lines instead scattered in all directions. Weapons that should have targeted the largest threats instead focused on seemingly random points. The entire human strategy appeared to be madness, until it worked. Dr. Lim Sua's shield-piercing weapons, mounted on ships that moved in patterns no computer could predict, found their targets. Not every shot, not even most shots, but enough. Enough to prove that the mighty galactic hegemony could bleed. When the alien fleet retreated to regroup, they left behind 3 destroyed ships and a species that had just learned it could fight. Gods and win. Admiral Kessethan stared at the battle reports in disbelief. His forces had achieved victory, but at a cost that should have been impossible. These humans were supposed to be primitive, helpless, weak. Instead, they seemed to become more dangerous every time they fought. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kessethan felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The humans had been given their educational demonstration. They had been shown the price of resistance, and they had responded by becoming better at resistance. The galactic hegemony was beginning to realize they might have made a terrible mistake, but it was too late to stop what they had started. Humanity was at war, and humans had never been good at losing wars. The real fight was just beginning. The Galactic Hegemony Council met in emergency session for the first time in 300 years. Representatives from 12 species gathered in the ancient chambers of Vorthak Prime, their faces showing emotions ranging from confusion to outrage. "This is unacceptable," hissed Supreme Chancellor Vexandra, her crystalline form pulsing with angry light. "A primitive species has destroyed 7 of our ships. 7. We have not lost so many vessels in 5 centuries of conquest." Admiral Kessethan stood before the council, his proud stance now showing cracks of uncertainty. "The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They show no respect for established combat doctrine. Their tactics are unpredictable." "They are animals," declared War Prime Zulak of the Hegemony military. "They must be crushed completely, immediately. Send the 7th Fleet. Send the entire 7th Fleet." The decision was unanimous. The full might of a hegemony war fleet would descend on human space. 200 ships of the line, vessels that had broken the resistance of entire star systems. Surely even these strange humans could not stand against such overwhelming force. They were about to discover just how wrong they could be. Dr. Lim Sua worked without sleep in her laboratory on Luna Base, surrounded by pieces of alien technology, recovered from the battles. Every broken component, every scorched hull fragment, every damaged weapon system was a puzzle piece in understanding how their enemies fought. "The energy matrices are completely different from our technology," she reported to Admiral Kim Ji-won during their daily briefings. "But that's actually an advantage. Their systems are designed to counter weapons like theirs, not weapons like ours." "Explain," the Admiral said, leaning forward with interest. "Their shields expect certain energy frequencies, certain attack patterns. We're hitting them with something completely outside their experience. It's like they've spent thousands of years building armor against swords, and we're shooting them with guns they've never seen before." 3 sectors away, General Kang Sung-hyun was discovering the same principle applied to tactics. His converted cargo ships and modified civilian vessels were achieving impossible victories against alien cruisers because they moved in ways no military computer expected. "Their artificial intelligence systems are incredibly advanced," he explained to his fleet commanders. "But they're programmed with 10,000 years of galactic warfare experience. Every battle they've ever fought has followed certain patterns. We don't know those patterns, so we can't follow them even if we wanted to." Captain Bae Tae-hyung had become a legend among both human and alien forces. His improvised fleet around New Horizon had not only survived 3 separate hegemony attacks, but had actually driven the aliens away each time. His secret was simple. He treated space combat like submarine warfare. In the old days on Earth, submarines would hide in the deep ocean and strike without warning, he told his crew. Space is just a bigger ocean, and asteroid fields are our deep water. His ships would disappear into the cosmic debris between attacks, moving silently through the darkness before striking from impossible angles. The aliens had sensors that could detect a human heartbeat from 1,000 kilometers away, but they couldn't find ships that simply turned off their engines and drifted like rocks. The 7th Fleet arrived in human space with absolute confidence. Fleet Admiral Morketh had overseen the conquest of 47 star systems. His forces had never been defeated, never even seriously challenged. The humans would be swept aside like dust. The first sign that something was wrong came when his advanced scouts simply disappeared. 12 recon ships, sent to map human defensive positions, never reported back. They just vanished without sending so much as a distress signal. Perhaps their communications were jammed, suggested his tactical officer. Fleet Admiral Morketh nodded, but felt the first cold touch of unease. The hegemony had been jamming communications for millennia. No primitive species should have better jamming technology than theirs. The mystery deepened when the main fleet reached the outer system, where human forces were supposed to be gathering. The space was empty, not just undefended, completely empty. No ships, no stations, no signs of life at all. Where are they? Morketh wondered aloud. He got his answer 6 hours later when the humans attacked from behind. Captain Bae Tae-hyung had spent weeks moving his entire fleet through the asteroid field that surrounded the system's star. When the alien fleet took position to attack the empty space where they expected human forces to be, they found themselves facing the wrong direction entirely. The battle that followed shattered every assumption about how space warfare should work. Human ships emerged from asteroid shadows like ancient earth sharks rising from deep water. They struck without warning, hit with devastating force, then vanished back into the cosmic debris before the aliens could respond. But this time, the humans had more than surprise and determination. Dr. Lim Sua's new weapons had been distributed to every ship in the fleet. Energy cannons that could punch through hegemony shields, missiles that could track and destroy alien fighters, defensive systems that could actually stop the feared Vorthak plasma beams. For the first time in galactic history, human technology was matching alien technology. The turning point came when Admiral Han Jae-ho arrived with reinforcements from Earth. His fleet had been traveling for months, every ship loaded with the latest weapons and crewed by volunteers who had trained day and night to master their new equipment. "This is Admiral Han Jae-ho to all human forces," his voice rang across the battle frequency. "Time to show these aliens what happens when you threaten Earth." What happened was the impossible. The human fleet didn't just defend against the 7th Fleet's attack, they counterattacked. Ships that had been running and hiding suddenly turned and fought with the fury of cornered tigers. Weapons that had been carefully conserved opened fire with devastating effect. Fleet Admiral Morketh watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet began to crumble. Ship after ship reported critical damage. His own flagship shuddered under impacts that should have been impossible. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science officer. "Their technology was primitive months ago." "They're learning," came the stunned reply. "Every time we fight them, they improve. Every weapon we use against them, they find a counter for. They're adapting faster than should be possible." The breakthrough came when Dr. Moon Yura, a specialist in alien psychology, made a crucial discovery while studying captured hegemony data cores. "They've been the dominant power for so long that they've forgotten how to change," she reported to Earth Command. "Their technology hasn't really improved in thousands of years because they've never needed it to. They just use the same weapons and tactics that worked before. And we're changing every day," Admiral Kim Ji-won realized. "Every hour," Dr. Moon Yura corrected. "We're learning from every battle, improving every system, adapting every tactic. They're fighting the same war they've fought for millennia. We're fighting tomorrow's war with yesterday's determination." The 7th Fleet retreated after losing 60 ships and failing to destroy a single major human installation. Fleet Admiral Morketh's final report to the Hegemony Council was a document that would have been unthinkable just months before. A recommendation for immediate peace negotiations. But the Council wasn't ready to admit defeat. Instead, they authorized something that hadn't been used in over 1,000 years, the elite guard fleets. The very best ships, the most experienced commanders, the most advanced weapons in hegemony space. They were sending their finest warriors to crush humanity once and for all. Pilot Ominsu read the intelligence reports about the incoming elite guard with grim satisfaction. His fighter squadron had become legends among human forces, achieving impossible victories against impossible odds. They had learned to fight not just with their ships and weapons, but with something the aliens didn't: understand hope. Let them come, he told his pilots as they prepared for what might be the final battle. We've shown them they can bleed. Now let's show them they can die. The aliens were about to learn the most dangerous truth about humanity. When cornered, humans didn't surrender. They evolved. The galactic hegemony was facing an enemy that became stronger with every defeat, smarter with every battle, more dangerous with every passing day. They had awakened something that had slept in the depths of space for millions of years. They had awakened the human spirit, and it was very, very angry. The war was about to enter its deadliest phase, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the masters of the galaxy were no longer certain they would win. News traveled fast through the galaxy, even when those in power tried to stop it. In the underground markets of Nexari Prime, alien traders whispered about impossible battles in the Outer Rim. In the art galleries of Zephyr, creative minds painted images of small ships defeating giants. On the peaceful worlds of the Valdor systems, philosophers debated what it meant when the impossible became real. The humans were winning. Not all the time, not every battle, but enough to matter. Enough to prove that the galactic hegemony could be beaten. For species that had lived under alien rule for thousands of years, this was more than news. It was revolution. Kaalti, a young Zephyrian artist, painted her masterpiece in the hidden galleries beneath her world's capital. The image showed a small bird diving at a massive snake, its tiny talons extended in defiance. She called it the human spirit, though she had never seen a human or known what a bird was. Somehow she understood. The painting was seen by millions before hegemony forces could destroy it. Copies appeared on worlds throughout the galaxy, each one spreading the same message. The strong could be challenged by the brave. Dr. Moon Yura, working from her research station near Jupiter, had become the galaxy's leading expert on alien psychology. Her studies of captured hegemony data had revealed something that changed everything. They're not just afraid of losing the war, she reported to Admiral Kim Ji-won. They're afraid of what losing means. The hegemony's power doesn't come from their technology or their weapons. It comes from the belief that they can't be beaten. And we're destroying that belief, the Admiral realized. Every day, every battle, every time we refuse to surrender, we're proving that resistance is possible. Other species are starting to remember that they don't have to obey. The elite guard arrived in 3 waves, each one more powerful than the last. Their ships were works of art as much as weapons, their hulls gleaming with energies that could reshape matter itself. Their commanders were legends, warriors who had never known defeat. Admiral Veltar of the 1st Elite Guard had conquered 30 systems without losing a single ship. General Krixnoth of the 2nd Guard was said to be the finest tactical mind in galactic history. Fleet Commander Sarthok of the 3rd Guard commanded weapons that could crack moons. They came expecting to face the primitive humans they had heard about in early reports. Instead, they found something that made their ancient hearts skip beats. They found an enemy that had grown. Admiral Han Jaeho's fleet met the 1st Elite Guard at the edge of the Sol system, humanity's final line of defense. But these weren't the desperate miners and converted cargo ships that had fought the early battles. These were purpose-built warships, designed from the ground up to fight aliens who thought themselves gods. All ships, this is Admiral Han Jaeho. His voice carried across the human fleet. They've come to our home. They think they can take our world, enslave our children, destroy our future. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity's children. The battle lasted 17 hours. When it ended, the 1st Elite Guard had ceased to exist. Admiral Veltar's flagship drifted as a burning wreck, its commander trapped in a crippled bridge, listening to his crew scream for mercy that would never come. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Half the human fleet was destroyed, thousands of brave men and women lost to the cold vacuum of space. Admiral Han Jeho himself was among the casualties, his ship destroyed while ramming the alien flagship in a final, desperate attack. The news of his death reached every human world within hours. From Earth to the farthest colonies, people mourned a hero who had died to keep their homes safe. But they didn't mourn for long. They got angry. Pilot Oh Min-soo read the casualty reports with tears streaming down his face. Admiral Han Jeho had been more than a commander. He had been a symbol of everything humanity could become. His death was a wound that cut deep into the soul of every human alive. They think killing our leaders will break us, Oh Min-soo told his squadron as they prepared for the next battle. They don't understand that every human is a leader. Every one of us carries the same fire that drove us to the stars. The 2nd Elite Guard found that fire waiting for them in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. General Krixnoth's tactical genius met something it had never encountered before: human creativity driven by pure rage. Oh Min-soo's fighter squadrons had evolved far beyond their original design. His pilots didn't just fly their ships, they danced with them, moved with them, became one with them. They fought with an emotional intensity that no computer could calculate, no algorithm could predict. They're not following any tactical doctrine, General Krixnoth reported to his staff officers as the battle raged around them. They're fighting like they're personally offended by our existence. He was more right than he knew. Every human pilot in that battle was fighting for something the aliens couldn't understand. They weren't fighting for territory or resources or political advantage. They were fighting for the right to be free, to choose their own destiny, to reach for the stars without asking permission from self-appointed masters. The battle ended when Oh Min-soo's squadron destroyed the alien fleet's command ship in a coordinated attack that should have been impossible. 12 fighters, flying in perfect harmony, struck as one and shattered a vessel the size of a city. General Krixnoth's last message to the Hegemony Council was a single word: impossible. But the impossible was becoming routine. Dr. Lim Sua's laboratories had cracked the secrets of hegemony shield technology, weapon systems even faster than light travel. Human ships now moved with speed that matched alien vessels, struck with weapons that could pierce any defense. More importantly, humanity had learned something that would change the galaxy forever. They had learned that their way of thinking, their refusal to accept limitations, their stubborn insistence on finding solutions to impossible problems, these weren't weaknesses. These were their greatest strengths. Captain Bae Taehyung's stealth fleets had grown from a handful of converted mining ships to a force that could strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. His submarines of space appeared in hegemony systems, destroyed military installations, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. "How are they moving undetected through our space?" demanded Supreme Chancellor Vexandra during an emergency council session. "They're not using our hyperspace routes," came the terrified reply from her intelligence chief. "They're creating their own. They've found ways to travel that our sensors can't detect." But the real shock came when the 3rd Elite Guard reached Earth itself, humanity's homeworld. Fleet Commander Sarthok's massive armada emerged from hyperspace expecting to find a terrified planet begging for mercy. Instead, they found a trap. The entire Sol system had become a fortress. Every asteroid had been turned into a weapons platform. Every planet carried defensive installations that could destroy fleets. The space around Earth itself bristled with defenses that made hegemony fortifications look primitive. "This is impossible," Fleet Commander Sarthok whispered as his scanners revealed the extent of human preparations. "They've turned their entire star system into a weapon." The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. When it ended, the 3rd Elite Guard had joined its predecessors in destruction. Fleet Commander Sarthok's moon-cracking weapons had proved useless against human adaptability and determination, but the real victory wasn't in space. It was in the message that spread from world to world throughout the galaxy. The humans had defended their home. The mighty hegemony had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The impossible had become real. On Nexari Prime, mathematicians began calculating the probability of their own freedom. On Zephyr, artists painted visions of a galaxy without masters. On the Valdor worlds, philosophers spoke of a future where all species could choose their own destiny. The revolution had begun, and it carried a simple message. If humans could be free, so could everyone else. Supreme Chancellor Vexandra looked at the reports from her military commanders with growing despair. 3 elite guard fleets destroyed, 30 star systems in open rebellion, allied species demanding explanations for defeats that should have been impossible. How do we stop them? She asked her advisors. We don't, came the quiet reply from her oldest counselor. They've shown the galaxy that we can be beaten. The age of the hegemony is ending. The humans had done more than win battles. They had shattered the myth of hegemony invincibility. They had proven that the strong could be challenged, that the impossible could be achieved, that freedom was worth any price. The galaxy was awakening, and humanity had lit the fire of rebellion that would burn across the stars. The final battle was not supposed to happen. By all logic, by all precedent, by all the rules that had governed galactic warfare for 10,000 years, the humans should have been satisfied with their victories. They had defended their territory, proven their strength, earned their place among the stars. But humans had never been good at following other people's rules. Captain Lee Do-hyun, now promoted to admiral after his role in First Contact, stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, Freedom's Dawn. Around him gathered the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled, not just to defend but to attack. Operation Enduring Dawn is a go, he announced to the hundreds of ships spread across space. Today we end 10,000 years of tyranny. The plan was impossible by any reasonable standard. 3 simultaneous attacks on the core worlds of the Galactic hegemony, striking at the heart of their power while their forces were scattered trying to contain rebellions across the galaxy. Dr. Park Nari, now Admiral Lee Do-hyun's chief science advisor, had spent months studying the political structure of the hegemony. Their entire system depends on fear, she had explained to Earth's War Council. Remove that fear, prove they can be beaten on their own worlds, and the whole structure collapses. Admiral Kim Ji-won, promoted to overall commander of human forces, had been reluctant to approve such an aggressive strategy. We're talking about attacking worlds that have been fortified for millennia. The casualties could be enormous. The casualties of staying free always are, replied General Kang Sung-hyun. But the cost of surrender is higher. The first target was Nexari Prime, the mathematical heart of the hegemony. The Nexari had been enslaved for 6,000 years. Their incredible calculating abilities used to plan hegemony expansion and control galactic resources. Captain Bae Tae-hyung's stealth fleet emerged from hyperspace directly above their capital city. But instead of attacking the city, the human ships broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. The galactic hegemony has fallen. You are free to choose your own destiny. The effect was electric. Within hours, Nexari mathematicians were calculating new equations, not for conquest and control, but for freedom and independence. Their uprising began before the first hegemony reinforcements could arrive. The second target was the artistic world of Zephyr, where the most beautiful creations in the galaxy were made by slaves for their master's pleasure. Pilot Oh Min-soo led the attack there, his fighter squadrons dancing through orbital defenses like living art. We're not here to conquer, he broadcast to the stunned Zephyrian population. We're here to remind you that art should be created for joy, not servitude. The Zephyrians needed no further encouragement. Their rebellion was swift and beautiful, a masterpiece of coordinated resistance that destroyed hegemony control in a matter of days. But the real prize was Vorthak Prime itself, the ancient capital world where the hegemony had been born. Admiral Lee Do-hyun led the attack personally, bringing humanity's finest ships and bravest crews to challenge the masters of the galaxy on their own ground. The defenses around Vorthak Prime were legendary, weapons platforms that could destroy fleets, shields that could stop entire armies. fortifications that had never been breached in 10 millennia of warfare. They had never faced humans before. Dr. Lim Sua's final gift to humanity was a weapon that turned the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The Vorthak had built their defenses to last forever, to be unchanging and eternal. They had created systems so perfect that they never needed updates, never required modifications. They were exactly the same as they had been 10,000 years ago. Their defense grid is running on software that's older than human civilization, Dr. Lim Sua had explained to the strike team leaders. It's powerful, but it's also predictable. We know every routine, every protocol, every response pattern. The battle for Vorthak Prime was the strangest in galactic history. Human ships moved through the ancient defenses like dancers following a choreographed routine, knowing exactly where each weapon would fire, precisely when each shield would activate. The immortal defenses, built to last forever, were defeated by beings who lived less than a century, but never stopped learning. Supreme Chancellor Vexandra watched her world burn from the windows of the ancient Hegemony Council chambers. Around her, the representatives of 12 species argued and blamed and prepared to flee. The impossible was happening. Their capital was falling to a species they had dismissed as primitive just 2 years ago. How? She whispered to herself. How did this happen? The answer came from an unexpected source. Hidden in the deepest archives of the Hegemony Council, Admiral Lee Do-hyun's Marines discovered records that had been sealed for millennia. Ancient tablets carved when the hegemony was young and still remembered how it had gained power. Dr. Moon Yura translated the old texts with growing amazement. It's all here, she reported to Admiral Lee Do-hyun as human forces secured the planet. The original rules of the Galactic Council, the wisdom of the first civilizations. What do they say? Lee Do-hyun asked. Rule number 1. Never underestimate a species' capacity for growth under pressure. The greatest threat to established order comes not from those who accept it, but from those who refuse to acknowledge its inevitability. Lee Do-hyun laughed, a sound both bitter and joyful. They forgot their own first rule. There's more, Doctor. Moon Yura continued reading. True strength lies not in the ability to dominate, but in the willingness to change. A civilization that stops growing dies, even if it lives for 10,000 years. The irony was perfect. The hegemony had become so powerful, so certain of their superiority that they had stopped evolving. They had built a perfect system for ruling a galaxy that never changed. But the galaxy had changed. New species had emerged. New ideas had been born. New possibilities had been discovered. The hegemony had tried to force everything into their ancient pattern, never realizing that the pattern itself was the problem. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a simple declaration. Standing in the ruins of the Hegemony Council chambers, Admiral Lee Do-hyun addressed the galaxy. The age of masters and slaves is over. Today begins the age of cooperation and freedom. Any species that wishes to join the new Galactic Federation, as equals, is welcome. Any species that chooses independence will be respected. But no species will ever again bow to self-appointed masters. The response was overwhelming. Within days, 47 species had declared independence from hegemony rule. Within weeks, the new Galactic Federation had been formed with humanity as one voice among many, not as rulers, but as partners. Some of the old hegemony species adapted to the new reality. The Nexari became the Federation's mathematical advisors. Their calculations now used to benefit all species equally. The Zephyrians filled the galaxy with art that celebrated freedom and diversity. Even some Vorthak chose to join the new order, trading their pride for the chance to be part of something greater. Others couldn't adapt. Supreme Chancellor Vexandra fled to the Outer Rim with the remnants of her forces, bitter and broken, unable to accept a galaxy where she was no longer supreme. Some species chose isolation over integration, withdrawing to their home systems rather than accept equality with those they had once ruled. Dr. Park Nari's final research report became the founding document of the new Federation. We didn't win because we were stronger. We won because we never stopped believing we could become stronger. Growth, adaptation, the refusal to accept limitations. These aren't just human traits. They're the foundation of all true civilization. 5 years after first contact, Admiral Lee Do-yun stood once again on the bridge of a ship exploring unknown space. But this time he wasn't alone. The crew of the exploration vessel New Horizons included humans, Nexari, Zephyrians, reformed Vorthak, and species that had just discovered space travel. "New contacts ahead," reported Dr. Park Nari from her science station. 3 ships, unknown configuration." Lee Do-hyun smiled, remembering another first contact that had changed the galaxy. "Open a channel." The alien faces that appeared on the screen were unlike anything they had seen before, creatures of living light that pulsed with colors beyond description. "We are the Illuminari," they said in voices like singing crystals. "We have watched your war with great interest. Your federation intrigues us." "We come in peace," Lee Do-hyun replied, using the same words that had started everything. "We seek knowledge and friendship with all civilizations." "And if we chose to refuse?" the aliens asked, perhaps testing him. Lee Do-hyun's smile grew wider. "Then we would respect your choice and wish you well. The galaxy is large enough for many different ways of life." The Illuminari considered this for a long moment. "How refreshing. Very well. We would like to learn more about this federation of yours." As the ships began their cautious approach to each other, Lee Do-hyun reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer ruled by fear and force, but by hope and choice. New species were discovering that they had options their ancestors never dreamed of. In the center of the Federation's charter, carved in 100 languages on a monument that could be seen from space, stood the ancient rule that the hegemony had forgotten. Never underestimate any species' potential for greatness. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, they had freed it.